The gunshot echoed through the canyon as Wade Vance wheeled his horse around, scanning the darkening horizon for whatever danger lurked in these New Mexico badlands just outside Empire City. The year was 1878, and the territory was still wild enough that a man traveling alone needed to keep his wits sharp and his rifle close. What he saw through the gathering dusk made his heart clench with an emotion he had not felt in years. Two figures huddled beside a broken wagon wheel, one tall and slender, the other small and clinging to the first. Even from this distance, he could see they were in trouble. Wade urged his horse forward, calling out before he got too close so as not to startle them. "Hello there, I mean no harm. Do you need help?" The taller figure turned, and Wade saw it was a woman, her dress torn and dusty, her face streaked with dirt and what might have been tears. She held a rifle pointed at him with shaking hands, and behind her skirts a child peered out with wide, frightened eyes. "Stay back," she called, her voice hoarse. "I will shoot if I have to." Wade raised both hands, reins loosely held in one. "Madam, I am not here to hurt you. I heard that shot and came to see if someone needed help. Looks like your wagon took a bad turn." The woman did not lower the rifle, but Wade could see exhaustion in every line of her body. She was young, perhaps 22 or 23, with dark blonde hair that had come loose from its pins and fell around her shoulders. Even in her disheveled state, there was something striking about her, something that made Wade's breath catch. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Wade Vance. I have a ranch about 5 miles northeast of here. Been in town selling cattle and heading home. Those storm clouds are rolling in fast, and you two should not be out here when they hit. Please, let me help you." The child whimpered, and the woman's resolve seemed to crack. The rifle lowered slightly. "My name is Beatrice Graham. This is my son Samuel. He is 4 years old. Our wagon wheel broke and our horse ran off hours ago. I fired that shot hoping someone might hear, but I did not know if it would bring help or trouble." "You got help," Wade said firmly, dismounting slowly. "Let me look at that wheel." It took only a moment to assess the damage. The wheel was not just broken but shattered beyond any quick repair. The wagon itself was old and poorly maintained, and Wade suspected it had been on its last legs even before this happened. "This cannot be fixed out here," he said, straightening. "And that storm is going to hit within the hour. I have room at my ranch. You and the boy can stay there tonight, and in the morning we will figure out what to do about your wagon and supplies." Beatrice's jaw tightened. "I cannot impose on a stranger. It is not an imposition. It is basic human decency. Madam, I understand your hesitation, but look at your boy. He is shaking with cold and fear. I am offering shelter, nothing more. You can keep that rifle pointed at me the whole ride if it makes you feel safer." Beatrice looked down at Samuel, and Wade saw her face crumple slightly. The child was indeed shivering, his small face pale and scared. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was resignation mixed with desperate hope. "All right," she whispered. "Thank you, Mr. Vance." Getting them both onto his horse along with what they could salvage from the wagon proved challenging, but Wade managed. He settled Beatrice in front of him with Samuel in her lap, and though she held herself stiff at first, by the time they were halfway to his ranch, exhaustion had claimed her. She leaned back against his chest, and he could feel her trembling. "How long have you been out here?" he asked quietly. "Since this morning. We left Empire City heading west, but I must have taken a wrong turn. Everything looks the same out here." "Where were you heading?" There was a long pause. "Anywhere but where we were." Wade heard volumes in those words but did not press. They rode in silence after that, with only the sound of hoofbeats and the distant rumble of thunder. The first fat drops of rain began to fall just as his ranch house came into view. It was not much, Just a simple wooden structure with a barn and a few outbuildings, but it was solid and well maintained. Wade had built most of it himself over the past 5 years, ever since he had decided to leave his wandering days behind and put down roots. He helped them down and ushered them inside quickly as the rain began in earnest. The interior was sparse but clean, with a stone fireplace, a table and chairs, a small kitchen area, and a ladder leading up to a loft where Wade slept. There was also a small room off to the side that he used for storage. "Let me get a fire going," Wade said, moving immediately to the hearth. "There are blankets in that chest over there. Get the boy wrapped up." Beatrice moved mechanically, pulling Samuel close and wrapping them both in a thick wool blanket. Wade had the fire blazing within minutes, and the warmth began to fill the room. He put a kettle on to boil and rummaged through his supplies for something they could eat. "I have salt pork, beans, and some bread from town," he said. "Nothing fancy, but it will fill your bellies." "Anything would be wonderful," Beatrice said softly. Samuel had not spoken a word since they arrived, just clung to his mother and watched Wade with those wide, uncertain eyes. As Wade prepared the meal, he found himself stealing glances at them. Beatrice had removed her bonnet, and in the firelight, he could see she had been pretty before hardship had etched lines around her eyes and mouth. She was thin, too thin, and her dress, though it had once been fine, was worn and mended in multiple places. "How long since you two ate a proper meal?" he asked. Beatrice's cheeks colored. "We had breakfast yesterday, some bread and cheese." Wade's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. When the food was ready, he served them generous portions and watched with satisfaction as they ate. Samuel came alive a bit with food in his belly, though he still did not speak. "Does the boy talk?" Wade asked gently, Beatrice's hand stilled on her spoon. "He used to." "He has not spoken much since." She trailed off, her eyes distant and pained. "Since what?" Wade asked, then immediately regretted his bluntness. "I am sorry, that is none of my business." "Since his father died," Beatrice said quietly. 3 months ago. I am sorry for your loss." She looked at him with eyes that held no tears, only a weary sort of acceptance. "I am not." The words hung in the air, stark and honest. Wade understood then, or thought he did. He had seen enough of the world to know that not all marriages were kind, not all men worthy of mourning. After they finished eating, Wade cleared the small storage room, bringing out old furniture and supplies to make space. He carried in his own bedroll and some extra blankets, fashioning a makeshift but comfortable sleeping area. "You and the boy can sleep in here," he said. "I will take the loft. If you need anything in the night, just call out." Beatrice looked at the space he had prepared, and for the first time since he had found them, tears spilled down her cheeks. "Why are you being so kind to us? You do not know us. We could be thieves or worse." Wade smiled gently. "Could be. But I do not think so. Sometimes people just need help, Mrs. Graham. No other reason necessary." She wiped at her tears quickly, embarrassed. "It is Miss, actually. We were not married. Samuel is mine, but his father and I never wed." In 1878 New Mexico, that admission carried weight and shame. Wade saw it in the way she held herself, braced for judgment or condemnation. He simply nodded. "Miss Graham, then. Get some rest. Tomorrow we will talk about what comes next." He left them alone and climbed up to his loft, though he doubted he would sleep much. The storm raged outside, wind howling and rain pounding the roof. He lay in his bedroll, staring at the rough wooden beams above him, thinking about the woman and child below. Something about them had already worked its way under his skin, a protective instinct he had not felt since his own family had died years ago in a cholera outbreak back in Missouri. He must have dozed eventually, because he woke to pale morning light filtering through the loft window. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean and quiet. Wade climbed down the ladder as quietly as he could, intending to start breakfast before his guests woke. But Beatrice was already up, standing by the window and staring out at the landscape with an expression he could not quite read. She turned when she heard him, and in the morning light, he saw her clearly for the first time. Without the dirt and exhaustion masking her features, she was not just pretty but beautiful, with delicate features and eyes the color of honey. But it was her expression that caught him, a mix of sorrow, determination, and something else, something that looked almost like guilt. "Good morning," he said. "Did you sleep?" "A little. Samuel is still asleep. He was exhausted." Wade moved to the stove to start coffee. "I will make breakfast, then we can discuss your plans." "Mr. Vance, before we do that, there is something I need to tell you, something I should have told you last night." Something in her tone made him pause. He turned to face her fully, giving her his attention. Beatrice took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I lied to you, or rather, I did not tell you the whole truth. Samuel's father, Victor Graham, he did not just die. He was killed, shot by a marshal in Empire City after he tried to rob the bank there." Wade felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his expression neutral. "I see. Victor was not a good man," Beatrice continued, words tumbling out now as if she could not stop them. "I knew that when I got involved with him, but I was young and stupid and thought I could change him. By the time Samuel came along, I knew better, but I was trapped. Victor kept us with him as he moved from place to place, running from the law or running toward the next scheme. I tried to leave twice. Both times he found me and dragged me back. He said if I ever tried again, he would make sure I never saw Samuel again." "But he is gone now," Wade said quietly. "Yes. And the morning after he died, I took what little money I could find, bought that wagon and horse with it, and left. But the people in Empire City, they knew I was with Victor. They looked at me like I was just as guilty as he was. I could not stay there, could not raise Samuel with everyone knowing his father was a thief and a criminal. So I was trying to get away to somewhere we could start fresh where no one knew us." Wade absorbed this, turning it over in his mind. "Why are you telling me this now?" Beatrice met his eyes steadily. "Because you deserve to know who you have brought into your home. If you want us to leave, I understand. I will gather Samuel and we will go. But I could not accept any more of your kindness without being honest about who we are and where we come from." The morning light streamed through the window behind her, catching in her hair and making her seem almost ethereal. Wade looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a criminal but a woman who had been trapped in impossible circumstances and was trying desperately to build something better for her son. "Where will you go?" he asked. She shook her head. "I do not know. Somewhere west, maybe California. Somewhere far enough that the name Graham means nothing. With no money, no wagon, and no horse." Her jaw trembled, but she lifted her chin. "I will figure something out. I always do." Samuel appeared in the doorway of the small room then, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looked between his mother and Wade with worry creasing his small forehead, as if he could sense the tension in the air. Wade made a decision. "Stay." Beatrice blinked. "What? Stay here? For a while at least. Give yourself and the boy some time to rest and recover. I could use help around the ranch anyway. You can work for your keep if that makes you feel better about accepting help." "Mr. Vance, you do not understand. If anyone from Empire City finds out you are harboring us, it could cause you trouble. Victor Graham is dead and buried. You were not charged with any crime, were you? No, but then there is no trouble to be had. You and Samuel need a place to stay. I have a place. It is simple mathematics, Miss Graham." She stared at him as if he had sprouted a second head. "Why would you do this? Especially now that you know the truth." Wade moved closer, stopping a few feet from her. Because I look at you and I see someone who has been dealt a hard hand but is still fighting to do right by her child. That is worth helping. And because—" He paused, surprising himself with what he was about to say. "Because I have been alone on this ranch for 5 years, and I did not realize how much I missed having people around until you and Samuel showed up." Tears welled in Beatrice's eyes again, but this time they were different. These were tears of relief, of hope, of something breaking open inside her. "I do not know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes. Say you will stay, at least for a while." She looked down at Samuel, who was watching the exchange with those solemn eyes. Then she looked back at Wade and nodded. "Yes, we will stay. Thank you, Mr. Vance. You have no idea what this means to us." "Call me Wade," he said, smiling. "If we are going to be living under the same roof, we should use first names. Then you should call me Beatrice." He liked the way her name felt in his mouth, liked the way she smiled when he said it. Beatrice it is. Over the following days, they settled into an unexpected routine. Beatrice proved to be a hard worker, taking over the cooking and cleaning without being asked, and also helping Wade with smaller ranch tasks. She had a quick mind and learned fast, and Wade found himself looking forward to working alongside her, teaching her how to care for the horses and tend the vegetable garden he had been neglecting. Samuel remained mostly silent, but he seemed to be coming alive in small ways. He followed Wade around like a shadow, fascinated by the horses and the work of the ranch. Wade found himself talking to the boy even when he did not respond, explaining what he was doing and why. Once, when Wade was brushing down his horse, Samuel reached out a tentative hand to touch the animal's flank. Wade guided the small hand, showing him how to stroke gently, and Samuel's face lit up with the first genuine smile Wade had seen from him. "He likes you," Beatrice said that evening as they sat on the porch after dinner, watching Samuel play with a carved wooden horse Wade had found in his trunk of old belongings. "I have not seen him respond to anyone like this since Victor died." Wade rocked in his chair, comfortable in the evening warmth. "He is a good boy. Smart, too, I can see it in his eyes." "He is." Beatrice was quiet for a moment. "Wade, I want you to know we will earn our keep. I know we have been here almost a week now, and you have not asked for anything in return, but you have been earning it," Wade interrupted. "Do you know how long it has been since I had a home-cooked meal that did not come from my own poor cooking, or clean clothes that did not smell like horse?" "You have been doing plenty, Beatrice," she smiled, but there was something sad in it. "You are too kind. Sometimes I worry this is a dream and I will wake up back in that wagon, or worse, back with Victor. It is not a dream, and Victor is gone. You are safe here." "Safe," she repeated, as if testing the word. "I do not think I have felt truly safe in 5 years. Wade felt anger kindle in his chest at the thought of what she must have endured. "Did he hurt you, Victor?" Beatrice's hand went unconsciously to her ribs, and Wade knew the answer before she spoke. "Sometimes. When he drank, mostly. But he never hurt Samuel. I made sure of that. I would rather die than let him lay a hand on my son." "You will never have to worry about that again," Wade said firmly. "Here, you are both safe. I give you my word." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and something passed between them. It was the first spark of what would grow into something much deeper, though neither of them recognized it yet. The weeks turned into a month, and the month stretched toward 2. Wade rode into Empire City occasionally for supplies, and each time he returned to find Beatrice and Samuel there waiting, his house feeling more like a home than it ever had before. The ranch work seemed lighter with 3 sets of hands, and the evenings were filled with conversation and laughter instead of lonely silence. Samuel began to speak again, just a few words at first, then more. His first full sentence was directed at Wade. "Can I help with the horses?" Wade had felt something warm and bright bloom in his chest at those words, at the trust they represented. Beatrice blossomed too, the shadows under her eyes fading, the tension in her shoulders easing. She smiled more, laughed more. Wade found himself memorizing the sound of her laugh, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, the graceful movement of her hands as she worked. He was falling in love with her. The realization came to him one evening as he watched her tuck Samuel into bed, singing a soft lullaby in a voice like honey and smoke. He was standing in the doorway, and she looked up and caught him watching. Their eyes met, and he saw something in hers that made his heart race. She felt it too. But neither of them spoke of it. The situation was complicated enough without adding romantic feelings to the mix. Beatrice was still healing from her past, still learning to trust again. And Wade was wary of pushing too hard, too fast. So they danced around it, careful and respectful, even as the attraction grew stronger with each passing day. Then one afternoon, nearly 3 months after Wade had found them on that dark desert road, trouble arrived in the form of a rider approaching the ranch. Wade was working in the barn when he heard hoofbeats. He emerged to see a man in a marshal's badge dismounting near the house. Beatrice had been hanging laundry and had frozen at the sight of the lawman. Wade moved quickly to her side, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder in reassurance before he stepped forward to greet the visitor. "Afternoon, Marshal. Can I help you?" The marshal was an older man, weathered and serious. "Afternoon. I am Marshal Carson from Empire City. I am looking for a woman and a boy. Beatrice Graham and her son Samuel. I was told they might be out this way." Wade kept his expression neutral. "What is this about?" "The woman was living with Victor Graham, the man who tried to rob our bank 3 months back. He is dead, but there are some questions about his associates and whether anyone else was involved. I just need to talk to her." "She was not involved in any robbery," Wade said firmly. "Miss Graham has been here working on my ranch for nearly 3 months. She and her boy were trying to get away from Graham's criminal life, not participate in it." The marshal's eyes sharpened. "So she is here." Wade hesitated, then nodded. There was no point in lying. "She is, but like I said, she had nothing to do with Graham's crimes. She was a victim of his, not an accomplice. I will need to hear that from her." Beatrice stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear Wade could see in her eyes. "I am Beatrice Graham, and Mr. Vance is telling the truth. I knew nothing about Victor's plans to rob that bank. I was at the boarding house with Samuel when it happened. The owner, Mrs. Henderson, she can confirm that." Marshal Carson studied her carefully. "Mrs. Henderson did confirm it. That is why I am here instead of bringing a warrant. But there have been questions, Miss Graham. Victor Graham was not working alone, and some folks thought maybe you knew who his partners were." "I do not," Beatrice said. "Victor did not talk to me about his plans. He barely talked to me at all unless he wanted something." The marshal pulled out a small notebook and a pencil. "Tell me what you know about these men." He listed 3 names. Wade watched Beatrice's face carefully, but there was no recognition there, only honest ignorance. "I do not know those names," she said. "Victor kept me away from his business. I only knew him and the life he dragged us through." Marshal Carson made some notes, then looked between Beatrice and Wade. "You have been here 3 months, you said." "About that, yes," Beatrice confirmed. "And you, Mr. Vance, you are harboring them knowing about Graham's criminal history." "I offered shelter to a woman and child in need," Wade said evenly. "There is no law against that. Miss Graham has committed no crime. She and her boy were trying to escape a bad situation. I helped them. That is all." The marshal studied them both for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. I believe you, Miss Graham, and I will put in my report that you were not involved in the robbery or any other criminal activity. but I would advise you to stay out of Empire City for a while. Some folks there have long memories and like to hold grudges." "I have no intention of going back there," Beatrice said quietly. "This ranch is my home now if Mr. Vance will continue to have us." She looked at Wade as she said it, and he saw the question in her eyes, the fear that this visit from the marshal might have changed things. "You and Samuel are welcome here as long as you want to stay," Wade said firmly. "That has not changed." Marshal Carson looked between them again, and something in his expression softened. "Well then, I will be on my way. Good luck to you both." He tipped his hat to Beatrice and mounted his horse. They watched him ride away in silence. When he was out of sight, Beatrice let out a long, shaky breath. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "I thought he was going to arrest me or take Samuel." Or Wade pulled her into his arms without thinking, and she came willingly, pressing her face against his chest. He could feel her trembling, could feel the rapid beat of her heart. "You are safe," he murmured into her hair. "I would not have let anything happen to you, either of you." She pulled back just enough to look up at him, her eyes searching his face. "Why do you care so much? We are nothing to you, strangers you took in out of kindness. Why do you keep protecting us?" Wade cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away the tears that had started to fall. "Because you are not nothing to me, Beatrice. You have not been nothing for a long time now." Her breath caught. "Wade." "I know this is complicated," he said softly. "I know you have been through hell and are still healing. I am not asking for anything you are not ready to give. But I need you to know. You and Samuel, you have become everything to me. This ranch felt like a house before you came. Now it feels like a home, because you are in it." "I feel the same way," she whispered. "I was so afraid to admit it, afraid that if I let myself feel this way about you, something would come and take it all away, like it always has before. I am not Victor. I am not going to hurt you or disappear. I am here, Beatrice. And if you will have me, I want to build a life with you. A real life. You, me, and Samuel." She searched his eyes, and whatever she saw there must have convinced her, because she rose up on her toes and kissed him. It was tentative at first, careful, but then it deepened into something real and honest and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Wade, I want that too." Samuel's voice broke the moment. "Mama, are you and Wade kissing?" They pulled apart, laughing, to see Samuel standing on the porch, watching them with wide eyes and a curious expression. "We are," Beatrice said, holding out her hand to him. Samuel ran to her and she scooped him up. "What do you think about that?" Samuel looked between them, then smiled, a real bright smile. "I think it is good. Does this mean Wade will be my papa?" Wade felt his throat tighten with emotion. He reached out and ruffled Samuel's hair. "Would you like that, son?" Samuel nodded vigorously. "Yes." "Can you teach me to ride a horse by myself?" "I think we can arrange that," Wade said, grinning. That night, after Samuel was asleep, Wade and Beatrice sat on the porch under a canopy of stars. She was tucked against his side, his arm around her shoulders, and the world felt perfect in a way Wade had never experienced before. "I should tell you something," Beatrice said softly. "Something else I have not been entirely honest about." Wade tensed slightly. "What is it?" "My real name is not Graham. I took Victor's name when we started traveling together because it was easier than explaining that we were not married. But my real name is Gates, Beatrice Gates." Wade relaxed and even chuckled. "Is that all? Beatrice Gates is a fine name." "You are not angry I did not tell you. No, you were protecting yourself and Samuel, I understand that." He paused. "Though I hope you will not mind changing it again in the future, to Vance." She sat up to look at him, eyes wide. "Wade, are you not yet?" he said quickly. "Not tonight. But soon, when you are ready. I want to marry you, Beatrice. I want to make this official, make you and Samuel truly mine in every way that matters." Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "I want that too, so much." They kissed again, and this time there was no hesitation. Only joy and hope and the promise of a future neither of them had dared to dream of just a few months ago. The weeks that followed were some of the happiest of Wade's life. He courted Beatrice properly, even though they were living under the same roof. He brought her wildflowers from the hills, taught her to ride his gentlest horse, and spent hours talking with her about everything and nothing. They learned each other's stories, each other's dreams, all the small details that make up a life. Samuel thrived under Wade's attention and guidance. The boy had a natural way with animals and took to ranch life like he had been born to it. Wade taught him to ride, to care for the horses, to rope fence posts and mend leather. Samuel soaked it all up, eager and bright, and Wade felt a fierce paternal love growing for the child. This was his son now, in all the ways that mattered. One evening, nearly 4 months after they had first met, Wade rode into Empire City with a specific purpose. He found the small jewelry shop on the main street and spent a long time looking at the rings in the case before selecting one. A simple gold band with a small diamond, modest but beautiful. "Getting married?" the jeweler asked with a knowing smile. "Planning to ask, at least," Wade said. "Hopefully she says yes. If she has any sense, she will." Wade rode home with the ring burning a hole in his pocket and his heart pounding with nervous anticipation. He had decided to ask her that very night, unable to wait any longer. He found Beatrice in the garden, pulling weeds in the late afternoon sun. Samuel was nearby, playing with a stick and some rocks, creating some elaborate imaginary scenario. Wade watched them for a moment, his heart swelling with love for both of them. "Beatrice, can I talk to you for a moment?" She looked up, brushing dirt from her hands, and smiled. "Of course." He helped her to her feet and led her a little ways away from Samuel, though the boy was too engrossed in his game to pay them much attention. "I went into town today," Wade said. "I know. Did you get the supplies we needed?" "I did. But I also got something else." He pulled the small box from his pocket and held it out to her. Beatrice stared at it, her hand coming up to cover her mouth. "Wade. Beatrice Gates, you came into my life when I did not even know I was lonely. You and Samuel have turned this ranch into a home, turned my life into something worth living. I know we have not known each other long, but I know my heart. I love you. I love Samuel. I want to spend the rest of my life with both of you if you will have me. Will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal the ring, and Beatrice started crying immediately, but they were happy tears, joyful tears. "Yes," she sobbed. "Yes, of course, yes." Wade slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, catching the sunlight and sparkling. Then he was kissing her, and she was kissing him back, and Samuel was running over asking what was happening. "Wade asked me to marry him," Beatrice said, laughing and crying at the same time. "We are going to be a real family." Samuel whooped with joy and threw his arms around both of their legs, hugging them tight. Wade scooped the boy up with one arm and pulled Beatrice close with the other, the three of them tangled together in a knot of happiness. They were married a month later in a small ceremony in Empire City, despite the marshal's advice about staying away. Wade had talked to Marshal Carson first, who had assured him that the questions about Victor Graham's associates had been resolved with 3 arrests the previous week. Beatrice was completely clear of any suspicion or association. The ceremony was simple, held in the small church with only a handful of witnesses. The minister, the marshal who had become surprisingly supportive of their union, the woman who ran the general store, and a few of Wade's rancher friends. Beatrice wore a new dress that Wade had insisted on buying her. pale blue with white lace, and she looked like an angel standing at the altar. Samuel stood beside them as Wade and Beatrice exchanged their vows, their promises to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Wade kissed his bride with all the love and hope in his heart, and Samuel clapped with delight. The reception was held at the ranch, simple but joyful. Wade had hired a fiddler from town, and they danced in the yard until the stars came out. Beatrice was glowing, more beautiful than Wade had ever seen her, and every time she called him husband, his heart swelled. That night, after Samuel was tucked into bed in what was now officially his own room in the expanded living space Wade had been building, Wade carried Beatrice over the threshold of their bedroom. They made love for the first time, slow and tender and full of emotion. Two people who had found each other against all odds and chosen to build something beautiful together. The years that followed were good ones. Wade's ranch prospered, growing from a modest operation to one of the more successful spreads in the area. Beatrice proved to have a head for numbers and took over managing the books and finances, freeing Wade to focus on the physical work of ranching. They were partners in every sense of the word, making decisions together, building their future side by side. Samuel grew into a fine young man, strong and kind and smart. He never called Wade anything but Papa, and Wade loved him as fiercely as if he had been there the day Samuel was born. The boy had Wade's way with horses and Beatrice's quick mind, and Wade knew he would make something of himself. 2 years after they married, Beatrice gave birth to their first child together, a son they named William. He had Wade's dark hair and Beatrice's honey-colored eyes, and Wade felt his heart expand to accommodate this new love, this new piece of their growing family. 3 years after William came a daughter, Emma, followed 2 years later by another son, Thomas. The ranch house grew along with the family. New rooms added, the sound of children's laughter filling spaces that had once been silent and lonely. Through it all, Wade and Beatrice's love only deepened. They had their challenges, as any couple does. Hard winters, difficult calving seasons, sickness that swept through and took some of their neighbors. But they faced everything together, their bond unbreakable. Samuel was 16 when the subject of his father came up for the last time. He had been helping Wade mend fence when he suddenly asked, "Papa, do you know anything about my birth father, about who Victor Graham really was?" Wade stopped working and looked at his eldest son carefully. "I know he was not a good man. I know he hurt your mother. Why do you ask?" Samuel was quiet for a moment. "I have been thinking about it lately, wondering if there is bad in me too, if his blood means I am destined to be like him." Wade set down his tools and gripped Samuel's shoulder firmly. "Listen to me, son. You are not your blood. You are your choices. Victor Graham was not here to raise you, to teach you, to love you. I was. Your mother was. You are the man you choose to be, not the man he might have been. And the man you are choosing to be, he is good, Samuel. Kind and honest and hardworking. I am proud to call you my son." Samuel's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I am proud to call you Papa. You saved us, you know, me and Mama. I do not remember much from before you found us, but I remember being scared all the time. And then you came and everything got better." Wade pulled his son into a tight embrace, this boy who had become so much more than he ever expected. "You saved me too," he said roughly. "All 3 of you. I did not even know I was lost until your mother and you showed me what a real family could be." Years continued to pass. Samuel married a good woman named Catherine and took over managing part of the ranch, building his own house on the property so he could stay close to family. William and Emma and Thomas grew up surrounded by love and land, learning the value of hard work and the importance of kindness. Wade and Beatrice grew older together, their hair silvering, their faces lining, but their love never fading. They still held hands while sitting on the porch in the evenings, still kissed goodnight before bed, still looked at each other with the same wonder and gratitude that had marked those early days. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Wade gave Beatrice a necklace with a small diamond pendant. "To match your ring," he said. She fastened it around her neck and kissed him. "You have given me so much more than jewelry, Wade Vance. You have given me a life I never dreamed possible, a real home, a real family, true love. You gave me the same," he said, pulling her close. "That night I found you and Samuel on that road. I thought I was just helping some strangers. I did not know I was finding my whole future. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not found us, if you had taken a different road that night?" "No," Wade said firmly. "Because I believe we were meant to find each other. All the hard things you went through, all the lonely years I spent on this ranch by myself, it was all leading to that moment, to us." Beatrice rested her head on his shoulder, watching the sun set over the land they had built together. "I love you, Wade. I love you too, Beatrice. Always have, always will." More years passed, bringing both joys and sorrows. They lost friends to age and illness, celebrated the births of grandchildren, watched their children grow into strong, capable adults. Through it all, the ranch remained, a testament to what two people could build when they chose to work together, to love together, to face the world as one. Wade was 63 and Beatrice 62, when they sat on their porch on a warm summer evening, surrounded by their children and grandchildren. There were 12 grandchildren now, ranging from Samuel's eldest daughter, who was 17, to William's youngest son, who was barely 2. The yard was full of noise and life and love. "Did you ever imagine this?" Beatrice asked Wade, gesturing to the scene before them. "All of this," Wade shook his head. "Never. 25 years ago, I was alone on this ranch, going through the motions of living but not really alive. And then I found you and Samuel, and everything changed. You found us," Beatrice said softly. "You saved us. I will never forget that night, seeing you ride up out of the darkness like an answer to a prayer I had not even known to say." "The morning after," Wade said, "when you told me the truth about Victor, about who you were and where you came from, I made a choice. To see you for who you really were, not where you came from. Best decision I ever made." Beatrice laced her fingers through his, their hands worn and weathered but still fitting together perfectly. "I was so afraid that morning, afraid you would send us away, that I would have to start running again. But you did not. You saw past the shame and the fear and saw me, the real me. I saw a woman who had survived impossible things and was still fighting for her child. I saw someone worth knowing, worth loving, and I was right." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their family. Samuel was teaching his oldest grandson to rope, the same way Wade had taught him decades ago. William and Emma were talking about expanding the ranch operations. Thomas, who had decided to become a school teacher instead of a rancher, was reading to a cluster of younger grandchildren. It was a beautiful, chaotic, perfect scene. "We did good, did we not?" Beatrice said. "Despite everything, despite where we started and how we found each other, we built something real and good." "We did better than good," Wade said. "We built something beautiful." As the sun set on another day, painting the New Mexico sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, Wade Vance held his wife's hand and thanked whatever fate or providence or luck had led him down that particular road on that particular stormy night in 1878. He had offered shelter to a woman and her child, expecting nothing in return. What he had received was everything: a family, a purpose, a love that had sustained him for decades and would sustain him for whatever time remained. The morning after he found them, had revealed a truth beyond his imagining. That two broken people could find each other in the darkness and build a light bright enough to last a lifetime. That love could grow from the smallest seeds of kindness and bloom into something magnificent. That family was not just about blood, but about choice and commitment and showing up day after day to do the work of loving each other. It was a truth Wade Vance would carry with him for the rest of his days, a truth written in every brick of the house he had expanded to hold his growing family, in every acre of the ranch they had built together, in every laugh line on Beatrice's beautiful face, in every memory of Samuel as a silent, scared little boy who had become a strong, good man. That night, long after the grandchildren had been collected by their parents and taken home, long after the house had grown quiet, Wade and Beatrice lay in their bed together. Wade held her close, her head on his chest, listening to her breathe. "Wade," she murmured, half asleep. "Yes, love." "Thank you for everything, for all of this." He kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for saying yes, for taking a chance on a lonely cowboy who did not even know what he was missing until you showed him. I love you. I love you too, now and always." They drifted off to sleep together, the way they had for 25 years, the way they would for many more to come. Outside, the New Mexico wind whispered through the cottonwood trees Wade had planted the year William was born. The horses nickered softly in the barn. The land stretched out in all directions, familiar and beloved. And in a simple ranch house that had once been a lonely bachelor's dwelling, but had become a home filled with love and laughter, Wade and Beatrice Vance slept peacefully, surrounded by the life they had built together from the ashes of their pasts. The years continued their steady march, as years do. Samuel's children grew and started having children of their own. William took over most of the day-to-day ranch operations as Wade grew older and chose to spend more time with Beatrice, enjoying the life they had built rather than constantly working to expand it. Emma married a banker from Empire City, and though she moved into town, she visited the ranch often with her children. Thomas became the headmaster of the school he had taught at, educating the next generation and carrying forward the values Wade and Beatrice had instilled in all their children. Wade was 70 when he finally decided to officially retire from ranching, turning over the full operation to William and Samuel. It was not an easy decision, but his body was not what it once was, and he wanted to spend his remaining years focused on what mattered most: Beatrice and their ever-expanding family. On a crisp autumn day, not long after Wade's 70th birthday, the entire family gathered at the ranch for a celebration. It had become tradition over the years, these big gatherings where everyone came together. There were nearly 40 people present now: children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and even a few close friends who had become like family over the decades. As Wade looked around at all the faces, all the lives that had sprung from that one night when he had chosen to help a desperate woman and her child, he felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Every person here, every laugh and smile and moment of connection, could be traced back to that choice, to the decision to see past fear and judgment and offer help to someone who needed it. Samuel approached him, now a man of 42 with gray threading his hair. "Papa, we wanted to do something special for you and Mama, to thank you for everything you have given us." Wade raised an eyebrow. "You did not need to do anything. Having all of you here is gift enough." "Nevertheless," Samuel said, smiling. He gestured, and several of the family members carried out a large object covered with a sheet. They set it up in the yard and then pulled the sheet away to reveal a beautiful hand-carved wooden sign that read, "Vance Family Ranch ESD. 1878, built on love." Wade felt tears prick his eyes. "Beatrice, standing beside him, let out a small sob of happiness. "We wanted you to know," Samuel continued, "that we understand what you built here. It is not just about the land or the cattle or the house. It is about family, about love, about choosing to see the good in people and giving them a chance to become something better. You taught us all that, Papa. You and Mama both." Wade could not speak past the lump in his throat, so he simply pulled Samuel into a fierce hug. Then all the other children and grandchildren were crowding around, everyone hugging and crying and laughing. A tangle of love and connection that represented everything Wade and Beatrice had worked for. That evening, after the celebration had wound down and most of the family had gone home, Wade and Beatrice sat on their porch one more time. The new sign was visible in the yard, illuminated by the setting sun, and Wade could not stop looking at it. "Built on love," Beatrice said softly. "That is exactly what this place is, what we are." "It is your love that built it," Wade said. "You and Samuel coming into my life, that is what changed everything." Beatrice shook her head. "No, Wade, it was your choice to help us, your choice to see past Victor's crimes and my shame. Your choice to love us when we were unlovable, that is what built this." "You were never unlovable," Wade said firmly. "You were scared and hurt and trying to protect your child. That is not unlovable, that is brave." They rocked in silence for a while, comfortable in the way only people who have spent decades together can be. Finally, Beatrice spoke again. "You remember that morning, after the storm, when I told you the truth about Victor? Every detail," Wade said. "I remember thinking that you were the bravest person I had ever met. Standing there, telling me something that could have made me turn you away, but doing it anyway because it was the right thing to do. I fell a little bit in love with you that morning, I think. Before I even really knew what I was feeling." "I felt it too," Beatrice admitted. "It terrified me. I had just escaped one man and here I was already feeling something for another, but you were so different from Victor. You were kind. You were patient. You saw me as a person, not a possession." "You are the best person I know," Wade said. "You took all the terrible things that happened to you and used them to become stronger, to be a better mother, a better partner. You never let the darkness win." "Because you showed me there was light," Beatrice said, tears streaming down her face. "You showed me that not all men are cruel, that love can be gentle and good and real. You saved my life, Wade Vance. In every way a person can be saved." Wade pulled her close, holding her as the sun set on another beautiful day. "You saved mine too, Beatrice. You and Samuel and all our children. You gave me purpose and meaning and more love than I ever dreamed possible." They stayed there until full dark, wrapped in each other and in memories of all the years they had shared. The road ahead was shorter now than the road behind, but they would walk it together, just as they had walked every path since that stormy night in 1878. The next morning dawned clear and bright, and Wade woke to find Beatrice already up and making breakfast. Samuel had stayed the night in his old room, and he appeared in the kitchen doorway looking just like he had as a child, sleepy-eyed and tousle-haired. "Morning, Mama." "Morning, Papa," he said, and Wade's heart squeezed with love for this man who still called them by those names, who had never once let Victor Graham's shadow darken his relationship with the parents who had raised him. "Morning, son," Wade said, accepting the cup of coffee Beatrice handed him. "What brings you by so early?" "I wanted to talk to both of you about something," Samuel said, looking suddenly serious. "About the future." Wade and Beatrice exchanged glances. "All right," Wade said. "Sit down, talk to us." Samuel settled at the table, accepting his own cup of coffee from his mother before speaking. "You two are getting older." "Not old," he added quickly when Wade raised an eyebrow, "but older. And I have been thinking about what happens to the ranch when you are gone, how we keep your legacy alive." "The ranch will go to you and your siblings," Wade said. "We have already drawn up the papers with a lawyer in town. It will be divided fairly between all four of you." "I know," Samuel said, "but I mean beyond that. How do we make sure people remember what you built here? Not just a ranch, but a family. A home for people who needed one." Beatrice reached over and covered Samuel's hand with hers. "Just by living the values we taught you, by being kind, by helping those who need it, by building something good with your own life. That is how you honor our legacy." "I want to do more," Samuel insisted. "I have been talking to William and Emma and Thomas, and we have an idea. What if we set aside a part of the ranch, one of the outbuildings maybe, and turn it into a place where people can come when they need help? Women like you were, Mama. People running from bad situations who need a safe place to land." Wade felt his throat tighten with emotion. Beatrice was openly crying now, squeezing Samuel's hand. "We could offer them work on the ranch," Samuel continued, warming to his subject. "Help them get back on their feet. Give them what Papa gave you and me, a chance to start over, to build something better." "Samuel," Wade said, his voice rough with feeling, "that is a beautiful idea, the kind of thing that would make this ranch mean something beyond just cattle and land. So you approve?" "More than approve. I am proud of you for thinking of it, for wanting to pass forward the help you were given." Wade looked at Beatrice, saw his own feelings reflected in her eyes. "Your mother and I will help however we can, with money, with planning, with whatever you need." Samuel's face lit up with joy. "Thank you. I was hoping you would say that, because I think this is important. I think this is what the ranch should be, not just a business, but a place of hope." Over the following months, the family worked together to turn Samuel's vision into reality. They converted one of the larger outbuildings into a comfortable living space, added a kitchen and sleeping areas, made it into a place where someone could live with dignity while getting back on their feet. They put the word out through Marshall Carson, who was still working in Empire City despite his advancing years, and through the churches in town. The Vance Ranch was offering shelter and work to anyone who needed it, no questions asked. Just like Wade had done for Beatrice and Samuel all those years ago. The first person to take them up on the offer was a young woman named Margaret with 2 small children, fleeing from a husband who beat her. Samuel and his wife Catherine took her in, gave her work helping Beatrice in the house and garden, and treated her with respect and kindness, until she was ready to move on to a sister's home in California. After Margaret came others, a family who had lost their farm to drought, a widow with 3 sons who needed work, a young man who had been wrongly accused of a crime and needed somewhere to hide until his name was cleared. The Vance Ranch became known throughout New Mexico as a place of refuge, a place where good people helped those in need without judgment. Wade and Beatrice watched it all with pride and wonder, seeing the values they had lived being carried forward by their children and grandchildren. The ranch was no longer just their legacy, but something bigger and more beautiful than they had ever imagined. Wade was 78 when his health began to truly fail. It started small: shortness of breath, pain in his chest, a weariness that sleep could not cure. The doctor from Empire City came out to examine him and gave the verdict Wade had been expecting. His heart was giving out. He had maybe a year, probably less. Wade took the news calmly. He had lived a long, full life, had loved and been loved, had built something that would outlast him. He was ready. Telling Beatrice was harder. They sat in their room, holding hands, and Wade watched her cry with a sorrow mixed with understanding. "I will not be far behind you," she said. "I cannot imagine this life without you in it." "You have to promise me you will keep living," Wade said firmly. "Keep enjoying the family we built. Keep being the amazing woman you have always been." "I promise," she whispered, "but it will not be the same. No, Wade agreed, but it will still be good because of the love we created. That does not die, Beatrice. It keeps going through our children and their children forever. Wade's last months were spent surrounded by family. He was confined to the house and then to his bed, but there was always someone there. Beatrice, of course, never leaving his side for long, but also the children and grandchildren, taking turns sitting with him, telling him about their lives, thanking him for everything he had given them. Samuel spent hours with his father, talking about the old days, about that first night when Wade had found them, about all the years since. "You were the only father I ever needed," Samuel told him. "The only one I wanted. Thank you for choosing us." "Thank you for letting me," Wade said, his voice weak but still warm. "You made my life worth living, son. You and your mother both." William came with business reports, keeping Wade updated on the ranch operations even though they both knew Wade was long past being able to weigh in on decisions. It was not about the information. It was about respect, about inclusion, about making sure Wade knew he was still valued. Emma brought him books and read to him when he was too tired to read himself. Thomas brought his students sometimes, and they would sing for Wade, filling the room with young voices and life. But it was Beatrice who was there every moment, holding his hand, talking to him, loving him until the very end. She crawled into bed beside him on his last night, curled against him the way she had for 5 decades, and whispered all the things she loved about him, all the memories they had made, all the ways he had changed her life for the better. "I love you," she said, over and over. "I love you so much, Wade Vance." "I love you too," he managed to whisper back. "Best thing I ever did was offer you shelter that night. Best thing that ever happened to me." "You gave me everything," Beatrice said, tears streaming down her face. "A home, a family, a real life. Love that I never knew was possible. You saved me." "You saved me too," Wade said. "Both of you from loneliness, from a half-life. You made everything bright and beautiful." He took a shuddering breath, each one harder than the last. "The morning after I found you, when you told me the truth, I made a choice. To see you, really see you. Best choice I ever made." "I made a choice too," Beatrice whispered. "To trust you, to let you in, to love you. I have never regretted it, not for one single moment." "Take care of them," Wade said, his voice barely audible now. "Our family, the ranch, all of it. Keep it going. I will, I promise." "And Beatrice?" "Yes, love, thank you for everything. For being my wife, my partner, my best friend. For giving me the best 50 years of my life." "Thank you for finding us," she whispered. "For not turning away, for loving us." Wade smiled, a small, peaceful smile. His eyes drifted closed. "Always," he breathed. "Always loved you, always will." Those were his last words. He took one more breath, let it out slowly, and was gone. Beatrice held him for a long time after, crying into his chest, memorizing the feel of him one last time, saying goodbye to the man who had changed her entire world one stormy night 50 years ago. Wade Vance was laid to rest on a hill overlooking the ranch, in a spot he had picked out years earlier. The funeral was attended by over 100 people, family, friends, neighbors, and people whose lives had been touched by the shelter the Vance Ranch had provided over the years. As Samuel gave the eulogy, talking about his father's kindness and generosity and love, Beatrice stood between Emma and Catherine, supported by her daughter and daughter-in-law, and thought about everything Wade had been to her. Savior, friend, husband, partner, the love of her life. She lived for 3 more years after Wade's death, years spent with her children and grandchildren, seeing the ranch continue to thrive and grow. She watched Samuel's work with the shelter program expand, helping dozens of families find their footing. She watched her great-grandchildren play in the yard where Samuel had once played, where all her children had grown up. But mostly, she waited. Waited to join Wade, to be reunited with the man who had given her everything. When her own heart finally gave out at the age of 81, she went peacefully, surrounded by family, her last word a whispered, "Wade." They buried her beside him on that hill, and the entire family gathered once more to say goodbye. The headstones were simple but beautiful, bearing their names and dates and one inscription: built on love, lasting forever. The ranch continued for generations after that, passed down through the family, always maintaining the shelter program that Samuel had started. It became part of the Vance family identity. They were the people who helped others, who offered sanctuary to those in need, who believed in second chances. And always, when a new member of the family asked about the history of the ranch, about how it all started, they would be told the story of Wade and Beatrice. How a lonely cowboy found a desperate woman and her child on a stormy night. How he offered them shelter. How the morning revealed a truth about who they were and where they had come from. And how instead of turning them away, Wade had chosen love. It became legend in the family, that story. A reminder of what could be built when someone chose kindness over judgment, when they saw possibility instead of problems. It was the foundation of everything the Vances believed, everything they tried to be. Samuel's great-great-grandson, another Wade, stood on that same hill nearly a century after the original Wade's death and looked down at the ranch spread out below. It had changed and grown, but the heart of it remained the same. The sign in the yard had been replaced over the years, but it always bore the same words: Vance Family Ranch built on love. This younger Wade knew the story by heart, had grown up hearing about his namesake and the incredible love story that had founded the family. He had brought his own daughter up to this hill, wanting her to understand where she came from, what her family stood for. "Tell me the story again, Papa," she said, and he did. He told her about a stormy night in 1878, about a cowboy named Wade who heard a gunshot and chose to investigate. About a woman named Beatrice and her son Samuel who needed help. About a morning revelation that could have ended everything, but instead became the beginning of something beautiful. And they lived happily ever after. His daughter asked when he finished, the way she always did. They did, Wade confirmed. They built a life together, raised a family, grew old side by side. It was not always easy, but it was good. It was real. It was built on love, and that made all the difference. The little girl looked down at the ranch, at the home that housed the latest family taking advantage of the Vance shelter program, at the land that had provided for generations, at the legacy of kindness and love that continued to this day. "I want to build something like that," she said. "Something that lasts." Wade smiled and ruffled her hair. "Then you will. Because you are a Vance, and Vances know how to love, how to build, how to make something beautiful out of nothing but hope and hard work and a willingness to help others." They stood there together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, the same colors that had filled the sky on countless evenings when the first Wade and Beatrice had sat on their porch. The same beauty, the same peace, the same sense of home. The story that had begun on a stormy night in 1878 lived on in every generation, in every act of kindness, in every decision to help someone in need. Wade and Beatrice's love had been the seed, but what had grown from it was a mighty tree with branches spreading wide, providing shelter and shade for countless others. That was their true legacy, not just the land or the buildings or even the family itself, but the understanding that love was not something to be hoarded but something to be shared. That offering shelter to someone in need could change not just their life, but the entire course of history. That choosing to see the good in people, to give them a chance when others would not, was how you built something that truly lasted. The Vance Ranch stood as a testament to that truth, and it would continue to stand for generations to come, always built on the foundation of love that Wade and Beatrice had laid so many years ago. Their story was more than just a romance. It was a blueprint for how to live, how to love, how to make the world a little bit better simply by choosing kindness. And on quiet evenings, when the wind whispered through the cottonwood trees and the sun set over the New Mexico landscape, you could almost feel them there still. Wade and Beatrice, Samuel and all their descendants, watching over the land they had built together, satisfied that their love had created something that would truly last forever. The end came not with sorrow but with completion, with the knowledge that every choice they had made, every moment of love they had shared, had rippled out into the world and changed it for the better. That was what it meant to be a Vance. That was the truth that had been revealed that long ago morning and had proven itself over and over again through the decades. That love, real and true and freely given, was the only thing in the world that could build a legacy worth leaving.